All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Today is Sunday, May 19th, 2024. You are now watching Permission to Exist, also known as PTE, and it is great to have you all here with me this evening. It's been a little while, but I think that's going to become a regular occurrence as we know how these things go. So, welcome, everyone. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who continues to support the channel. The best way to support is by liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel. But thank you to those of you who choose to support in monetary ways as well, be that Patreon or Cash App or super chatting, super stickers, things of that nature. It all goes a long way to support your creators, as I'm sure as you all watch other videos around YouTube, you probably notice how many creators are simply burnt out, how many just can't do it anymore. And I'm so tempted to do like a mini documentary on how that happens, why it happens, and what's actually happening to creators, because it happens to us all, great and small. So support those who continue to show up, even if it is once every 2 or 3 months. So, anyway, we have so much to talk about tonight. Hello to everybody in the chat. It is great to see you all. We have so much to talk about, y'all. And what's interesting about this show is I was actually going to do it about a month ago. I had a whole presentation prepared. And then the eclipse happened. And so that kind of took my attention. So I did do a show on my other channel, A Deeper PTE, all about the eclipse, my theories, my questions, things of that nature. So if you're interested in that, check it out. And I'll link it for you after the show is over. But some of you all were there. Some of y'all were there. So you participated in the show. So welcome. I hope you all have been doing well. I hope you're all hanging in there in these crazy, crazy times that we are living in. So tonight's show is all about the 4B movement and how women all over the globe are revolting. Okay. And I love to see it. And I can't be more proud than I am right now for women standing up for themselves, speaking out for their rights in more ways than just one. Like for many years, we've been focused on just 2 or 3 issues, but women are speaking out all over the place. So much so that it makes me want to download TikTok. I still have not downloaded TikTok. I kind of refuse because I don't want to be distracted that much and I don't want to be pulled into rabbit holes that much because I can tell that it would entertain me. I can tell. Like I can tell I would absolutely be sitting there for hours watching TikTok videos. And I just cannot afford to do that right now in my life. I really can't. But with everything that's going on, it makes me want to because I feel like that's where the most current information is. So, anyway, a lot of this has been taking place on TikTok, but also on YouTube. We're going to discuss the 4B movement, what it is, why it's happening. And then after that, we're actually going to talk about some current events that have been going on recently that are just so plentiful. It's hard to keep up. I've had to update this thing like 3 times, but we are going to discuss the dating app Bumble and their recent ad campaign and what that means. We're going to discuss that football player, Harrison Buckner. I don't know how to say his last name, so I'm just going to say Buckner, but it's spelled Butkner. We're going to talk about that fool and the speech he made to a graduating class of people. And we're also going to discuss what's going on with P. Diddy and the video that came out over the weekend. And it's just all so much. And it's just crazy. Like, we as women have to deal with so much in this world. And a large portion of it is the direct byproduct of exposure to men. And we've been talking about women's issues and relationship issues in some form or fashion for a very long time on this channel, probably since this channel started. One of my first videos, I think it has like 700 and some odd thousand views, is how the narcissistic male views marriage. I've touched on the misguided members of MGTOW. I have a whole series called Sick and Dangerous Men. So this really could be considered an installment of that, but it's not. It's an offshoot. But and that's not actually my channel focus. My channel focus is narcissism. But the reason that I focus so much on male impact towards women is, for one, I'm a woman. So there's that. Two, I've experienced and lived through so much of what we see and hear about in the media, in our real lives, all that. So I have a very unique perspective. But three, and probably most important, is there's a major power dynamic and a power imbalance when it comes to men and women. And as it has been famously put, I don't know who originally said this, but they said men worry about losing their money, women worry about losing their lives. And that's real. That's so real. Men primarily worry about losing their money in divorces or alimony or child support, things of that nature. Women worry, is he going to kill me or our kids or me and our kids? And that has happened more times than we can count. So that's why my focus tends to be towards the upliftment of women and the empowerment of women. It's not my sole focus, but it has been a focus because it's a problem. And seeing how much it has, I guess you could say, evolved, but I was going to say devolved since I first started talking about it about 7 years ago, is really scary. It's frightening, but it's been very enlightening as well, because a lot of what we've always suspected is starting to come out, and they're putting it on wax and making their private thoughts be known publicly. And that is such a public service. I can't even begin to express to you how much of a public service that is to everyone, but especially women and children. Okay. Now, as a result of what women have been going through worldwide, a movement has started in South Korea called the 4B movement. Now, I'm sure at this point, most of you have already heard about it, but if not, we're going to talk about it and you're going to learn about it tonight. And then we're going to get into some of these current events. Okay, so let's go. So we're going to start off with a screenshot. I saw this on Twitter. The top caption says, Korean women weren't playing when they said, we're not having any more kids till your misogynistic ways stop. And they were captioning a photo that says, South Korea doesn't have any first graders. Over 150 elementary schools have no first graders. A total of 157 elementary schools across South Korea do not have any first graders set to enroll in March, the Ministry of Education said Monday, as a record low number of new students is expected for the upcoming school year. Okay, so listen, I love it when people put their money where their mouth is. I really do. Almost nothing brings me more pleasure on this earth than when people say something and then follow through with it. Them girls said, we're not playing with you. We're not having any more kids until you stop. And I haven't dived deep into the history of what's going on in South Korea, but I know that other parts of the world, women are heavily oppressed. So it sounds like a similar situation is happening. And I heard something is going on in the Congo, and I need to look into that. I don't know exactly what's happening, but apparently there's some sort of mass femicide going on in the Congo. So I need to look into that as well. But yeah, so South Korea doesn't have any first graders. All right. And they're very concerned about it. Let's take a look at another screenshot of something I saw on Twitter. It says, all the men chortling in the comments, LMAO. China selectively aborted a significant percent of its females, and the remaining women are now refusing to marry at historic rates. There are entire towns full of single males. A culture that mistreats its daughters is doomed to collapse. And first of all, I didn't know this. I didn't know that there were entire towns full of single males. Didn't know that. But I just find it so interesting because I remember first hearing about what's going on in China and how they had the two-child policy and how girls were not desirable. So they would do all kinds of things to these girl babies, leave them out in the woods, whatever, anything to not go over that two-child policy and ensure they had a son, right? And I remember thinking when I was a child hearing about that, well, that's not going to work out so well in a couple of years when all these kids grow up and it's all boys. I remember being like 10 years old thinking that, like, well, if it's all boys, how is their society going to continue? And then I went on with my 10-year-old life, didn't think anything of it. Now, fast forward, there are entire towns full of single males. Oh, it was a one child policy. Chat says one child policy. It was one child. Oh my God. You're right. It was the one child policy. Oh my God. It says Sudan, Palestine, Congo. Yes, the situation is awful. I need to look into that. I only just heard about it like yesterday. So I need to look into that. But so, okay, one child. So that they had one shot to have a boy. So if they had a girl, they'd leave her out to the woods. God only knows what else they did with those girl babies. And now the chickens have come home to roost. Well, the roosters have come home to roost. And you have entire towns full of single males. And I just am forever blown away at the short sightedness of narcissists. We have talked about this so much on the channel before, but it deserves repeating. They are such short sighted individuals. Short sighted. Like, did you think what? A couple of women per town were just going to bear all the children for the whole town? What were you thinking? Like, it was insane back then, but it's even more insane now. So, anyway, now they are reaping what they sowed, and they have entire towns full of single males. Okay. So, as this relates to the 4B movement, we're going to get into all that, but let's take a listen. I hope the sound works. The sound has been doing strange things lately. So, hopefully, the sound works. I want you to hear from a male who says that 4B is of the devil. So let's take a listen to what he has to say, okay?
Like the 4B movement, is that not of the devil? Like it's literally these women are talking about how they're not going to date men, sleep with men, procreate with men, and all these other things, right? And it's like, wow, like what are you going to do? Feminism is going to lead these women into dating each other. This is not going to benefit you in any way. This just screams you hate men. Like imagine if men got on this app and said, "Oh yeah, we're going to participate in the 4Bs, and we're not going to sleep with women. We're not going to talk to women or date women." You know, we would get shamed for that. Actually, you know what it sounds like? It sounds weird. Like this literally goes against human nature. You're not gonna sleep with men and procreate with men and marry men.
Welcome to the Find Out Pushing the Fucking Rug, where women literally don't care if we go extinct. Like literally, women all over the world have decided that if the choice is to be married to a man who treats us like nothing, who gives us no incentive or benefits to being in that relationship, or the population dying off, we will let it die off. Don't worry, it won't, because there are plenty of women who will still sleep with you. But those aren't the women you're going to want. No, you're going to want the women who don't want you. Otherwise, this wouldn't bother you so much. Because it's not actually about wanting what's best for humanity. It's about you wanting to control the women you can't. Also, I think it's cute that you think if you came out and said you weren't going to sleep with women anymore, we'd actually care. Most of us just want you to leave us alone. Also, marriage isn't natural. It's a contract. It's about ownership of property, women, and study after study have shown that men who are married are happier and live longer, but women who are married are less happy and don't live as long. Oh, and sweetheart, it's not about misandry. It's not about us hating men. It's about us expecting men to evolve and be better and you choosing not to. So if you don't like this, if you don't like the fact that women have said, you know what, we're done, we're peacing out, let it die off, you have no one to blame but yourselves.
Now, the thing I found most interesting about the clip that she was replying to was that he said, what if we did that, meaning men? What if men just declared, we're not dating women anymore, we're not getting married, we're not going to sleep with y'all, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, sweetheart, you did. He might be too young to actually know that, because these days 26-year-olds are looking 40, and there's been a whole discussion online about that. So he could be like 26 years old. Okay. So he may not actually know that they did. It was called MGTOW, MGTOW. They did. That was their whole declaration. We are not getting married. We are not dating these women. However, they always left a caveat for sleeping with women, which I just find so interesting. Because, see, when women stop liking men, they stop sleeping with them. But men stopped liking women, but they want to keep sleeping with them, though, which is fascinating to me. It shows me how different we really are. Because most women, most, I would estimate almost 100%, but I have to leave some wiggle room in there. So I would say 95% of women, when they no longer like a man, they cannot touch him. They can't touch him. They don't want to be around him. They don't want to hear his voice. They don't want to be next to him. And they certainly don't want to sleep with him. Men are not the same way. Men can actually hate you and still sleep with you. Isn't that fascinating? I think that's fascinating. I think that needs to be studied, because it's, to me, such a disconnection from the mind and the body, which is kind of disturbing when you think about it. You don't like this person, you hate them, but you'll still get aroused by them and sleep with them. Women can't be aroused by men they're not attracted to. And part of attraction is liking you. So if she doesn't like you, she's going to have a tough time sleeping with you. But men aren't the same. But anyway, I say all that to say they already did. He said, what if we did that? You did, sweetie. You don't remember? You might be too young. You might be like 24, pulling at 38, you know? So you might actually be too young to know that they did this already. They did this. This has been going on for years. But the problem was, the basis of their argument initially was a complaint about child support and family court and things of that nature. That was the starting point. But then it just kind of devolved from there. And it just became a general gripe against women and how women won't cooperate, and therefore they're going to go their own way. And women kind of said, okay, bye. But it is actually, they never went their own way, actually. They kept circling back. So now in their anger, it has grown out of proportion and escalated to something that even Homeland Security has gotten involved in. And we talked about that too. And there was another report, but I can't find it. But there's a new report out that Homeland Security had something to do with, that lists like about 20 YouTube channels that they consider very high on the spectrum of basically anti-female rhetoric. So they're investigating these people. Like, this is how bad it's gotten. It's gotten really bad. It has spiraled completely out of control. Okay. So much so that women all over the world are just starting to say no to the whole thing. Now, while I switch my screens over here really quick, what I find interesting about that is a lot of women were already doing this before it even became a movement. So a lot of women had already sworn off what we're going to discuss here in a minute, just as a byproduct of their interactions with males. And it's really sad that it's gotten to this point, but it's also kind of a logical consequence. Like, you can only beat your head up against a brick wall but so much before you stop hitting yourself in the head and you just walk away. And then you might have an initial grieving period, which is natural. And then you enter into a period of peace that is so unsurpassed, you don't think you'll ever allow anyone else in it to violate it. Really. I know, right? Chat says, never did I think I'd see dating get so politicized. Absolutely. Okay. So let's talk. Chat says, get back to the topic of narcissism. This new direction is cringe AF. Sweetie, if you think this is a new direction, you haven't been paying attention. And this is narcissism. This is the byproduct of narcissism. This is what happens when narcissism runs unchecked and is not brought under control. it just keeps going until it destroys everything around it. And then its primary target has walked away. Hence the 4B movement. I know I used to have mods, but it was a whole thing. So I got rid of them. Well, not that sounds terrible. Not rid of them, but I took away everyone's wrench. So, anyway, what is the 4B movement? For people who don't know what it is, the 4B movement, 4B or Four No's, is a feminist movement which is purported to have originated in South Korea in 2019. Its proponents renounce dating men, marriage, sex with men, and having children. The four no's are no sex with men, no child rearing, no dating men, and no marriage with men. And in Korean, all those words make the B sound. So biseksu, biklusan, biyonye, and bihan. I'm sure I butchered that, but they all start with B. So that's where the B's come from. So, two proponents criticize marriage as reinforcing gender roles in South Korea. The movement draws some amount of inspiration from the novel Kim Ji-young, born 1982, as do South Korea's Me Too and Escape the Corset movements. The 4B movement initially gained recognition on Twitter in 2019 and through various feminist social media accounts. One notable feature of the 4B movement, as with other Korean digital feminist movements, is that members often identify themselves as anonymous women, as it is conventional not to disclose personal details online. What else? Let's see here. The 4B movement is meant to serve as a direct opposition to South Korea's patriarchal state and combat its pro-natalist policies, which view women's bodies and reproductive abilities as tools for the state's future. Feminists who engage in the 4B movement are known to actively resist the various ways in which gendered expectations are enforced in a conservative society, specifically relating to child rearing, relationships, and employment. This resistance involves not only withdrawing from dating, but also rejecting prevalent gendered beauty standards and their associated consumerist practices in South Korea. So, basically, in summary, 4Bs originated out of South Korea. It stands for no sex with men, no child rearing, no dating, and no marriage. So they're done. And just like the lady in the video clip that we watched, she basically said, women have decided if we go extinct, so be it. That's where we are. If we end up extincting the place, so be it. It's not what we wanted to do. I don't think it's what anyone wanted. I think it's simply the direct consequence of what has happened. And all these many years of the brutality that we have experienced, not only in person and in our day-to-day real lives, but online as well. We have had to endure a lot of straight up verbal abuse and threats from men online that big media and big tech supports at 100%. Now, every now and then they'll do something about it. Every now and then, but for the most part, they allow it to happen. They let it be. They let it go on. They're almost 100% responsible for this. But I can't give them that much credit because it was brewing many years before big tech really took off the way that it did. But they have supported it. They have facilitated it. They have monetized it. And act like there's nothing wrong with it. So women have had to endure so much, and they are finally revolting. Finally. So I think it's a beautiful thing because one of the main problems, I think, the males that are in these different communities online, especially the most outspoken ones, is they have fallen for the big lie that they actually often try to push on women. And that big lie is your life amounts to nothing if you do not end up in a long-term relationship. Your life means nothing. It has no purpose, no direction. Why are you even here? That is the big lie. And it has been projected onto women, but the people who believe it the most are men. And that might actually surprise you. It might surprise you to learn that the people who believe in that the most are men. They are the ones who feel like their lives amount to nothing if they don't have a woman and if they don't have children. They feel like their life is nothing. It means nothing. It has no purpose. And so, their number one goal in life is obtaining, and subduing women. That is their number one mission. And it's also the reason they are driving themselves crazy and have subsequently driven each other crazy in their constant exchanges about the topic because of the belief that if I die alone, if I die and I don't have a woman or a wife and kids and grandkids, and I die and I don't have those things, then, oh, that's the worst thing ever. I'm going to grieve for all eternity. You're not going to grieve for all eternity. You'll be dead. It doesn't matter. It's amazing to me because it's almost like they believe their life goes on after they die. Now, what you believe happens in the afterlife, that's up for discussion for a different day. But my point is, as far as we know, we don't just like keep living after you die. So it's not like you're going to be sitting in the living room as a ghost with your wife and children. You're dead. But that's a different discussion. That's way too deep for this particular show. We'll get into that another day. My point is, they live their whole life around this belief system. And when they can't obtain what they want, because what they fail to realize is there's a consent factor here. There's a consent factor and there's a luck factor. You have to find a woman who is consenting to be with you, be that for marriage, dating, sex, whatever. You have to find a woman who's willing to do that. But also, you're leaving out the luck factor. You're not just going to walk outside and meet your husband or walk outside and meet your wife. It doesn't work that way. Luck is involved. The only time luck is not involved is when marriages are arranged, and we all know how that's going. There's a luck factor. You might walk outside every day this year and not run into her, and then walk outside the first day of next year and meet your wife or girlfriend. She just wasn't here yet. She wasn't in town. She wasn't visiting her sister. She wasn't at that gas station that day. She wasn't in the grocery store that day. She wasn't, working for your company yet that day. You know what I mean? Like, think about how, if you're in a relationship right now, hopefully it's a happy, healthy one. Think about how you met your spouse or a partner or whatever. Did you just walk outside and decide, you know what, today is the day I'm going to be in a relationship? Probably not. You probably met them randomly, like through a friend, through mutual friends, at a friend's wedding. Maybe you joined a new running club. You met them there. Maybe you met them at school. Maybe you got into a car accident. God forbid, it was just a fender bender. And when y'all got out to assess the damage, then you met right then. You met him because he ran into the back of your car on accident, or vice versa. So, like, there's an element of luck. How about this? How about the person that you're meant to be with is in a relationship right now? Maybe they're not married. Maybe they've been dating a couple of years. They're in a relationship right now, but that relationship is currently falling apart. It's going to take another 6 months for it to fall apart completely, for this person to put themselves back on the market, for you to actually be available to meet them, or them available to meet you. There's an element of luck involved, but they don't see it that way. They see it as, this is something that should just simply be happening for me just because I want it to. And your inability to factor in consent and luck are why you are driving yourselves crazy and making yourselves miserable. And it's fascinating. It's amazing that the brain can't get over its own like equation enough to realize, you know what? I may not meet my wife for another 2 or 3 years. And that's okay. I have no control over that. But no, they believe I'm going to put on my clothes, go out tonight, and I'm going to meet a girl and she's going to like me and she's going to come home with me and we're going to be together. Just hit her over the head and drag her into your cave. Primitive. Oh, it's so primitive. It's the primitive for me. You know what I mean? So, anyway, why are women revolting? I mean, it's quite obvious, but I think it deserves a chance to be broken down. So, the way that I chose to break this down is by giving you different examples. First is getting into a long diatribe about why women are revolting. Women already know why women are revolting. But for anyone who's curious, well, why would the women turn against this when it's all she should ever want? It's all we've taught her to want since elementary school. So why would women actually say, you know what? It's okay if in this life I don't become a mom and I don't become somebody's wife. That's okay. My life is still worth living. What would cause women to take that position? Let's talk about it. Things like this. Things like men making posts that say things like, a woman's prime starts at 18. A man's prime starts at 30. Women age like milk. Men age like wine. And messages with similar sentiments. So, what this man is basically telling you is that if he pursues women of a legal age, that essentially her prime starts at 18, and according to some of them, it begins to decline by age 22. That's their words, not mine. So, a woman has 4 years to be appealing to a man. And after that, she's milk, basically. Whereas he believes in his mind that he hits his stride at 30, honey, and it only goes up from there, which is actually hilarious. But with messages like these and with messaging like this, why then would a woman even try? If you're telling us our value is only worthwhile for about 4 years in our life, why try? Because I'm going to live way longer than 4 years. Hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, I'm going to be alive for much longer than age 22. So if I only have that tiny little window to hit the target of desirability, why bother even trying? Why bother? Especially when you find out men aren't out here trying. So messaging like this, you're only valuable when you're young, very young too. And y'all might want to drift away from that messaging because celebrities are going down left and right now because of their affinity for the youth, their affinity towards super young girls, super young people, their belief system that, oh, after a certain age, a woman loses all her attractiveness and value. When you got Gen Z men out here, age 26, looking 42. But you're telling women you're only desirable basically when you're children. When you're children and teenagers, and then after that, we don't want you. Then why would a woman get involved with you? Why? Why? Why would she do that? Why would she place her children in the hands of a man? Why would she have children with a man who believes that their mother is only worthwhile when mommy's like 22? And then after that, mommy's not valuable to you anymore, daddy? You don't love mommy anymore because she turned 31? So what you're also telling a woman is, okay, if I meet you when you're 19, I'll get with you and I'll marry you and have kids with you because you're 19. But once you hit like 23, cringe. Now I'm going to divorce you and drop you and try to get another 19-year-old. So now you're basically telling her she stands a very strong chance of becoming a single mother. because you don't think she's pretty anymore. And I saw a woman, it was on TikTok, so I was saying I might need to get TikTok, who was basically saying that so many women put their lives on the line based on whether, no. She said so many women's survival depends on whether or not their husband still likes them. And I said, damn, oh my gosh. Wow. So, and it's true. These women who give up their jobs or never had one to begin with, stay-at-home mothers, wives, homemakers, their survival depends on whether or not their husband still likes them. So basically, one day he could simply come home and decide he doesn't like her anymore, doesn't want to do this anymore, divorce her, kick her out of his house. Now she's got 1 or 2 kids, 3 kids with no income, all because her husband didn't like her anymore. Why would women risk their lives like this? This is life and death that we're talking about here. Hello, somebody. The chat says they're not aging like wine if they have to threaten women to stay. Look how hard it is to get away from them. Exactly. I was thinking about that earlier today. I was like, wow, it almost is like marriage was designed to keep women from running away. Because men knew way back then that their nature was so destructive that anyone in their right mind would want to run away. They would want to flee from that. They would want to flee from that circumstance. So to prevent her from fleeing, from running away, you have to put legal chains on her and legal chains on those kids to keep her from running away. So it's kind of deep if you think about it, because it becomes very complicated once you start blending bank accounts, blending ownership of property. And the most complicated is when you start blending DNA and blending family ties, blending blood. Now you really in there, and you cannot just up and leave and take his children with you. You can't, unless it's like a life-threatening situation. But even then, the courts are probably going to try to find a way to work it out to keep the family together. You know what I mean? Like, that is so scary to me that there are women out there who know he's a dangerous man, can't prove it, but know it because they've seen it, and have to send their children over to a man's house who they know to be dangerous, and legally have to do it and are ordered by the court. You have to send your child to their father's house every other weekend or every other holiday or whatever. Please stop, little cat. You're doing too much. You're real busy. God, I need a little studio so bad I can't even see straight. Something I can close the door and just tune out everything that's going on around me. Anyway, that is frightening to me because, like, you know, basically certain things, if she didn't get it on tape, then it doesn't exist. But she was there, so she knows it happened. Knowing who he is, how dangerous he may be, not fully knowing what he's capable of, and having to send your children to his house for a weekend. Oh, God. That is terrifying to me. That's terrifying to me. So anyway, I say that to say, we get messages like this all day long on the internet. And hopefully, over time, we'll be able to shame them into how absolutely creepy this is. You're a grown man who truly believes that women are only attractive during a certain time frame in their life. And if you think for 1 second these young women aren't looking at you thinking about that money you got, since you want to pursue young women as an older man, thinking about all that money you got, you're sadly mistaken. Hold, please. I need to get this little animal together. Hold on. I'm sorry. And if that was really loud, I apologize. I actually didn't realize there was any sound on there at all. So I'm sorry. I apologize to your eardrums. Okay, I'll fix that. I just needed a little hold screen, and it has this really loud, obnoxious music attached to it. All right, we'll fix that. We will fix that. I apologize. So let's move on. Let's move on. So here's another screenshot from Twitter. It says, why women my age aren't getting married, witnessing more divorces than weddings, the dissolution of the social structures that make marriage stable and advantageous, haven't found the right guy, non-committal men who won't propose, not thinking they're going to be hot forever, which is usually the short-sighted logic that these men like to present, which, and I just saw it in the chat. I wish I had read it when I saw it, but it said something like, dang, what did it say? Oh, let me see if I can find it really quick. No, it's too far up. Oh, no, here it is. It says, they're not aging like wine if they have to threaten women to stay. Look how hard it is to get away from them. All right. And I might actually have read that. I don't know. I'm all distracted because there's just too much going on in my environment. So, anyway, you have to literally threaten women to get them to stay with you. You have to threaten them. Really think about that. Think about it as it relates to employers and all the conversations that we've had about work in the corporate world, how basically they have to threaten you to get you to work for them. Oh, it's a tough job market out there. Oh, you don't want to do that. Oh, you don't want to look like a job hopper. Oh, you don't want any gaps on your resume. Oh, like you have to threaten people to get them to stay with you. Really think about that. You have to scare them with the threat of dying alone, even though everyone dies alone. You have to scare them with the threat of growing old with animals, then growing old with the man who thinks you lost your looks at age 22. You have to threaten them with all of these things. The threat of who's going to protect you. Oh, the boogeyman, you know? So you have to basically use coercion to gain cooperation. Anytime someone has to use coercion to gain your cooperation, that is a bad deal. That is a bad deal. It's one of the number one ways that I'm able to spot a scam. Usually there's some element of coercion and veiled threat involved, and so you have to do that. But anyway, back to this tweet. All of these are true, but the one that stood out to me the most was when she said, non-committal men who won't propose. Let's talk about that for a second, because I rarely hear this discussed in social media or otherwise, is the number of women who, fresh out of high school, either had a boyfriend or got a boyfriend shortly after going to college. So either they had a high school sweetheart or they met a guy when they got to college. And how many of those girls really wanted to get married at a young age? The girls wanted it at age 20, 21. Their thought was, we'll finish school, we'll get married, start our family. That's what the girl wanted. But guess who didn't want it? The guy. Guess who didn't want it? The guy didn't want it. He wasn't ready to settle down yet. He wanted to explore the world and do things like that. He didn't want to get married and start families. These men are not serious. They're very, very unserious. If you were to interview them and they were actually willing to be honest, most of them would tell you that yes, they had a relationship in high school and college when, to be honest with you, they were at their prime, but we're not going to go there. They had a girl in high school. They had a good girl in college, and they blew it because they weren't ready to get married and settle down yet. So after stringing her along for however extra many months or years, she finally broke up with him because she got tired of him wasting her time, you see. Now, some girls went on to get in other relationships, others chose to just stay single or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, I think when women are younger, that's what a lot of women want. Now, this new generation is saying to hell with you, and I love it. I think it's cute and beautiful. It's beautiful. There's hope. The kids might actually be all right. But women in my generation, probably slightly older and certainly slightly younger, I guarantee you so many of them had that experience. They met a guy, they were crazy about him. He probably met their family and everything, but he felt like he wasn't ready yet, but still wanted to access her in more ways than one. So when she decided she no longer wished to be accessed by a man who wasn't serious about her, she broke up with him. And he turns into one of these guys who's like, well, women don't want to get married. Well, it's women's fault the family is falling apart. Why don't these women just want to settle down instead of being IG thoughts and whores? It's like, well, probably before she became an IG thought and whore, she probably was in a serious relationship where her time was wasted. And she just said, you know what? These are not serious people. And she went on about her business. So no one wants to talk about that. They act like there's all these young men out here with their hands in their pockets, humble yet sincere, just ready and willing to marry women fresh out of high school, early college, or just after getting out of college. And it's simply not happening. It's not true. It's not. It's just not. I don't know where they are. I know for a fact, though, a lot of them are just sitting up in them rooms playing video games. And I'll tell you how I know that. I don't know how old this young man is. If I had to guess, I would say maybe he's 18, maybe 19 years old. He's one of my neighbors. He lives with his mother and I guess siblings. I don't know. And he has a room like on the top floor. The window is always open. And the angle of my house, I can see his TV. And every time I step outside after hours, because during the day, the sun doesn't really like penetrate the windows like that. But at night, because he leaves the window open all the time, it's nothing but video games, baby. From about 8 o'clock p.m. to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, video games all night long, every night. Every night. He's not going out. I never see him like get into his car, kind of dressed up with some friends, going out for the night, have fun, mix and mingle with people. Never, never. All I ever see is him up there playing video games. Day in, well, see, I can't say day in because it's hard to see during the day. And by the way, I'm not looking like that. Again, it's when I step out on my back porch and I just happen to be able to see into his window because he's got the thing wide open and his TV is against the black of the night. It really stands out. So I'm not just looking in this guy's window. I want y'all to know that, okay? It's just there, basically, like a billboard almost. And every time I look up, I don't ever see him watching TV. He's never watching any movies. He's never watching YouTube videos. It's video games. From the time the sun goes down to sometimes when the sun goes up, because I'm up at all hours of the night. I'm like, this kid doesn't do anything but play video games. He's never going to leave his mom's house. But I guarantee you, in between those video games, he's probably online complaining about women. And it's like, son, do you even work? Like, I don't even think he has a little job. Because again, I never see him getting in his car, like looking like he's dressed to go to somebody's job and coming back from work. And I don't see that. All I ever see is him greeting his mother when she arrives. He'll help her offload some groceries. He'll take the trash can in and out. And other than that, the only time I'm aware of his existence is when I look up and see the billboard of him playing video games all night. But will probably complain about women in his free time. You see what I'm saying? He's not going to leave her house till he's about 27, 28 years old. Now, in fairness, in this economy, Yeah, that's going to be a difficult thing to do, but you got to start somewhere. So, anyway, I digress. Chances are he had him a little girlfriend, maybe coming out of high school or something. But after she realized all he wanted to do was play video games all night, she probably left. And she's probably on her way to a more fulfilling relationship. So we don't want to talk about these non-committal young men who don't want to propose. We don't like to talk about that. We don't talk about that. And people love to reminisce about the old days and how young men used to get married at 18 and 19 years old, and they did. But a lot of those young men were actually in the military, and there were financial benefits to being a married man in the military. That's why they were running off getting married the way that they were. And a lot of them were shipped off to war. The ones who came back, I imagine that really adjusts your perspective on life. Living through a war zone, participating in a war zone probably makes you want to come home, marry that pretty girl down the street, buy a little house for $7,000, have a couple of kids and raise your children in it. I imagine. I imagine it makes you want to really chill out when you've seen something like that, right? But because today's modern male has had no active threat to their lives like that, they have become spoiled. Spoiled. So, and as you all can see, I'm sure from some of the comments coming through, like they don't change. Like these are their same talking points for years now, guys. They don't change. Their minds literally cannot bend the corner. That's a dangerous person all by itself. Your mind cannot bend the corner. You can't think in terms of nuance. You can't think ahead or down the street. That's why women seem so much smarter than you. And I would argue that we are. But really, half the time, all it is you've only thought of steps 1 and 2. She's thought all the way to step 20, 25, 30. And they're all there and they're all accessible. You just refuse to walk that stair step. You only think black or white, on or off, zeros and ones, yes or no. That's it. The woman can think circles around you. And when she tries to explain it to you, you shut it down, you shut it out, which I think is fascinating as well, your ability to do that. You basically have the ability to force yourself to not think, which is the most human aspect of who you are. The ability to think is supposed to be the most unique human feature, and yet you have found a way to override it and shut it off. So, you know, it's amazing. And we put these people in charge of us, people who can't think 2 steps ahead, people who don't think, hey, if we implement a one-child policy and then we say it's more favorable to have a male, that might possibly have a negative impact 18, 20 years plus from now. The young men won't have any women to date. That could be problematic, but we're going to go through with it anyway. That's how you are. And that's why women are doing things like the 4B movement. Once you realize that there is no changing an individual and no changing their mind, at some point it becomes your responsibility to walk away. And that's what women are doing. But let's explore some more messages that we're told on a daily basis. I've said something to this effect before, but I did not make this card. It says, I see. So if I don't have sex with you, I'm a prude bitch. If I use the pill, I'm a slut. If I get pregnant, I'm an idiot. And if I choose abortion, I'm Satan. Yay. It's so fun being a girl, let me tell you. And actually, this is a good segue into discussion about what happened with Bumble. But I wanted y'all to see this. So if I don't have sex with you, I'm a prude bitch. If I use the pill, I'm a slut. If I get pregnant, I'm an idiot. And if I choose abortion, I'm Satan. Hooray. Yay. Being a girl is so fun. It's fun. It's so fun. I remember I was having a conversation, this was years ago, with a coworker, a male coworker, who's probably one of the most terrible people I've ever actually met. Really, really horrible person. But anyway, I rejected him very early. But he's one of those who you can reject and they just kind of stay around. Like they just kind of hover around, even though you basically have rejected them. So, anyway, in his acceptance of his place in my life, he would just be very honest. He would just be talking about everything. I guess he figured I stand no chance with this girl. So I might as well just be real with her because nothing I can do is going to get her to change her mind. And he was right. So one day we were having a conversation about relationships, which is their favorite topic, by the way. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to the fact that relationships are actually their favorite topic. And ask yourself, why? Why? Like they think about relationships more than women do. But anyway, we were talking about relationships and this subject kind of came up. And I said, well, I think I asked something along the lines of, well, what if a girl just simply decides she's not going to sleep with the man unless they get married? And he looked at me in my eyes and said, oh, that's fine. He's effing while he's waiting. He's effing while he's waiting. He's engaging in intercourse with other people while he's waiting. He's engaging in adult relations and adult relationships while he's waiting. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, what a terrible human being. Because understand that basically it was a threat. And the threat was, okay, you don't have to sleep with me while we're dating, but I'll be sleeping with other people while I'm waiting for you. And I never forgot that. Never. Out of all the conversations we had, I'll never forget him saying that because he said it so casually, as if it was like a yeah, duh. Like, yeah, duh, that's fine. He's effing while he's waiting. In other words, you can't win, sweetheart. You can be the perfect woman in every way, and you can decide, you know what? I am not going to give him my body or give anyone my body until I get married to him. And this man told me, well, that's fine. He's effing while he's waiting, though. So great. So the man I'm interested in marrying and have decided, I'm going to wait with him could be out here exposing himself to various STDs, potentially getting other women pregnant while we're in a relationship because he doesn't want to practice discipline with his body. I'm practicing discipline with mine, but he doesn't want to practice discipline with his body. So he's exposing himself to all these liabilities while waiting for me. Awesome. Fun. Fun. So, the sooner women figure out this catch 22, the sooner they'll be able to let go of any expectations that they had. If I don't have sex with you, I'm a prude and I'm effing while I'm waiting. If I use the pill, I'm a slut. But if I get pregnant, I'm an idiot. And if I choose abortion, I am Satan. Yay. Fun. So you see how and why a lot of women are simply walking away from this foolishness? It's like this is the world men have designed. You designed this world. This is the world that you designed. And this is the consequence of us saying, okay, we are submitting to you. We are submitting to the world that you designed by simply not engaging with it because we don't have to. And we know that you all are trying to make us have to engage with it. And you're really putting out that good effort. You know what I mean? But it's still not changing women's minds. It's not. It's not changing women's minds. And we will extinct this place before we allow this to be the world that we live in. Species have gone extinct before. The world will be just fine. It'll be just fine. Okay. So to segue, let's segue into this Bumble ad controversy. It's just insane all the different directions they're trying to hit from, which tells me that it is far worse than we even realize, y'all. The fact that the powers that be are going at this with everything they've got and from every angle that they've got tells me that this situation is worse than even we realize. See, you might think it's just you. Like, well, I'll just stop dating and I'll just kind of focus on my life. Maybe I'll go back to school, blah, 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 blah. But you don't realize there might be millions of other women out there just like you going, you know what? I'm not dating anymore. I'm just going to focus on my life, going to go back to school, pick up a new hobby, and blah, blah, blah. You think it's just you because you might suffer from the belief that there's a very small number of people in the world when really there's billions. So if this is happening by the millions, even, that's a problem. They already know that these birth rates are falling. And I think right now they are currently below replacement level for almost every major country in the world. They're below replacement level. Meaning, and by the way, replacement level is basically 3 children per couple because the first child only replaces one of you. The second child replaces the other one of you. The third child is a net positive. So technically, between the two of you, you have only produced one extra person if you have 3 kids. Because the one child replaces one of you, the other child replaces the other parent. It's the third child that produces a net positive. So every woman would have to have 3 kids with the same man to produce population growth. And even there are even happily married couples out there who have decided one child is enough. That's it. So even though they had their one child, that's not enough to bring the birth rate up. But even there are even married couples out there, happily married couples out there who have simply decided they're stopping at 1. Other couples have decided to stop at 2. That was it. They were like, that's it. We're not doing any more than this. So they're not pulling the rates up. It's a crisis. It's a problem. So let's take a look at Bumble. Basically, I'm just going to fast forward. Basically, Bumble was dumb enough to put out billboards that said this: you know full well a vow of celibacy is not the answer. Introducing the new Bumble. Okay. Whew, that was one billboard. Here's another billboard that they put out: thou shalt not give up on dating and become a nun. So basically, what has happened here is Bumble recognized. I mean, really think about this, you guys. Really, let's really take a moment to think about this. Bumble, a dating app that was centered around the women being the first to reach out. So basically, I think the way it worked was like if 2 people connected, they could only talk if the woman reached out first. That's how it was anyway, I think. And it was designed to make women feel safer on these apps by not receiving so many unsolicited messages from men. So she had to initiate the contact. And people liked it, I guess, for a long time. But I guess what Bumble, after doing market research, has discovered is that a lot of women have simply stopped dating altogether. Chat says Bumble said there are only men on the app. Really think about that. Think about it, y'all. This thing has gotten so bad that the dating apps are now essentially begging you to come back, telling you things like, you know full well a vow of celibacy is not the answer. Wow. So women are finally choosing better, right? Women have decided to stop being sluts and whores, right? Women have finally decided to stop doing those things and said, you know what? I'm not going to have sex. I am just either not going to date at all, or I'm only going to date with men who are willing to accept my celibacy. And the dating app responds, you know full well a vow of celibacy is not the answer. Followed up with, thou shalt not give up on dating and become a nun. This is how bad it has gotten, okay? So there was a major backlash. I went on the App Store earlier just to read the reviews. They are eating them up in the reviews, honey, okay? Eating them up like, as you should be, eaten up. A vow of celibacy is not the answer. Wow. Yeah, Bumble tried it. Wow. So basically, you want women to come back to the app. You want them to put themselves at risk physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually at risk. You want them to risk pregnancy at a time where their reproductive rights are under threat. You want them to risk getting pregnant by one of your app users. And you expected that to go over well. So Bumble released a statement because they were getting ate up. And it says, to our beloved Bumble community, we made a mistake. Our ads referencing celibacy were an attempt to lean into a community frustrated by modern dating. And instead of bringing joy and humor, we unintentionally did the opposite. Some of the perspectives we heard were from those who shared that celibacy is the only answer when reproductive rights are continuously restricted, from others for whom celibacy is a choice, one that we respect, and from the asexual community for whom celibacy can have a particular meaning and importance, which should not be diminished. We are also aware that for many, celibacy may be brought on by harm or trauma. Yeah. For years, Bumble has passionately stood up for women and marginalized communities and their right to fully exercise personal choice. We didn't live up to these values with this campaign, and we apologize for the harm it caused. So here's what we're doing. We're removing these ads from our global marketing campaign. Bumble will be making a donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, among other organizations, as part of our ongoing efforts to support the work being done around the world to support women, marginalized communities, and those impacted by abuse. Please keep speaking up. We will also be offering these partners this billboard space to display an ad of their choice for the duration of our reserved billboard time. Please keep speaking up and telling us how we can be better. We care about you and will always be here for you. With love and sincere appreciation, Bumble. Who do we need to get out the chat? Let's see. Who do I need to boot? Phil? Do I need to boot Phil? Phil, you need to be booted. You know what's weird about Phil, though? Phil comes to almost all my shows. It's very strange. And there are some times that I feel like there are members of their community who just monitor my channel. And as long as I don't drift over into this topic, it's all good. But the second I drift too deeply into this topic, they start piping up. Oh, they said, Phil, they saying you gotta go. I'm booting you. I'm put you on timeout. And if you continue to cut up after timeout, I'm gonna block you. But Phil be at every show. Go look at some of the old videos. It's very strange, very interesting phenomenon. It's actually been going on for a couple of years now. So yeah, so Bumble fumbled. Oh, Bumble, how you fumbled. And the crazy thing about ad campaigns is that they have to be approved by lots of different people, y'all. We're talking about millions of dollars. Ads aren't cheap. You can't spend $50 and get a billboard. Ads are not cheap. And they said that this is a global billboard campaign, meaning they probably ran this ad in countries where like a woman can be killed if she's not a virgin on her wedding day. Talking about you all know full well a vow of celibacy is not the answer. Yes, it is. Why isn't it? You see how no contact is not an option? No contact is not an option for narcissists. That's why it's always the number one recommendation. You go no contact with them. It's the last thing that they want. It's very similar to when you are working for a narcissistic company. They actually don't want you to quit. And believe it or not, they don't want to fire you either. They want you to stay there and take their abuse. That's what they want. They want you to be their punching bag, their permanent punching bag. You leaving was not part of the equation. And they also think that they've done a sufficient enough job on psychological warfare that somehow you'll talk yourself into staying, basically. So they like to know that their mind games are effective enough that even when you should leave, you won't, because they played with your mind that much, right? So when they see you're willing to walk away, not only does it completely ruin the fact that they want you to stay so they can continue to mistreat you, but it also shows them, dang, my mind games are not as effective as they once were. So, anyway, you would think that a vow of celibacy would be music to the red pill's ears, right? Like, oh, finally, these whores are closing their legs. Finally. We've been trying to get them to close their legs, but also open them, but close them, but also open them, but also close them for decades now. They finally decided to close up shop, and now we're mad. It's not only that they're mad, it's also that apps like Bumble, unless a man dates men also, they're losing money because the men are like, there's no girls on here. There's no girls on here. Where are all the girls? Where are all the women? Like, it's gotta suck. I heard a statistic that said something like a woman, I'm trying not to laugh, a woman gets swiped right, which means the person wants to connect with her. I think I got it messed up. Basically, for every 20 connection requests a woman gets, a man gets one. And people have run experiments. Like, they picked friends who, God bless them, they were willing to go along with it, who were kind of like average. Like, the girl might be like, yeah, I'm kind of average looking. I know I'm not like a supermodel. I'm average. And they're like, okay, we want you to open a dating profile and see how many hits you get. Instantly. Inbox fills up instantly. Instantly. I think they've run experiments with women who are like, yeah, I've got 2 kids. I'm a little bit overweight. I'm a single mom. Instant inbox fill up. Instant. It's instant. Don't let these people lie to you. Don't ever let them lie to you, honey. Don't ever let them make you believe that you are anything less than what you are, which is a woman, honey. Instant inbox. So much she can't even keep up with it. Meanwhile, a guy can go an entire day and maybe get 1 hit back. Maybe. And they're mad about that too. Try it. Even if you're a woman who considers yourself off the market because maybe you think you've aged out, you should just try it one weekend just for fun. Watch what happens. Instant, honey. Your inbox is going to fill up instantly. Instant. I haven't done dating apps for years for many reasons. There's a whole lot of different reasons, but one of the reasons is because, oh God, there's so many. One of the reasons is because I find it very depressing. It's depressing to me when you think that there are a lot of other people out there in the world like you, only to discover that there are not. And I mean that on even the most basic of levels. Levels like, can he even spell? Is he fluent in his own language, which in this particular case is English. I speak English. I consider myself pretty fluent. Is he fluent in his own language? It's not a second language for him, which I would be very forgiving of, extremely forgiving of someone who's trying to communicate with me in English and English is his second or third language. I'm going to forgive a lot for that. But English is your first and only language and you're not fluent in it. And to discover that that is such a widespread issue is extremely depressing. But then every now and then you meet a fluent one, but the conversation is dry and boring and canned. And now apparently AI has entered the chat. So apparently now you don't always even know if you're talking to a real person or not anymore. But I would at least hope that AI could spell. But anyway, there's that. I'm always stunned at how they choose to present themselves. Like you are standing in a tank top in your bathroom mirror and you're not smiling. You know what I mean? Like, and that's supposed to turn me on. You're in a tank top in your dirty bathroom mirror, not smiling. Like, don't get me started, y'all. That could be a whole separate show. Why I refuse to do dating apps. But anyway, so you have people like me who haven't visited these apps in years, but even the girls who were willing to do it have started to drop off. Like, yeah, this is weird and not worth it. So Bumble swing and a huge miss. I don't know who approved that, but I imagine that they probably won't be working for Bumble for very much longer. Telling women that you know full well your vow of celibacy is not the answer. Oh, okay, so you want them to go out into the world, risk their bodies, risk their lives in some cases, risk their mental health, their stability, and all of that, so your user base can have more people to interact with. So, okay, fine. You've been trying to get my attention for about the past hour. It says sex is important to men, it's biology. Okay, but are you an animal though? Because you all claim to be the logical, rational ones, and yet you are acting like you cannot override your base animal instincts. Sex is important to everyone. You're not special. Somebody needs to tell you that. You're not special. We do not have to address your dick. We don't. Address it yourself. Stop acting like a child who doesn't know how to control themselves. It's such a turnoff. But sex is important to me. Sex is important to everyone. But some people are adults and have full cognitive capacity to control their base instincts. That's what separates you from a fucking animal. Are you an animal? Are you? Because if you are, just say that. Say, PTE, I am an animal and there's nothing I can do. And if that's how it is, then you need to give up your house, your cars, your job, and you need to go live in the woods like a wild, feral animal. That's what I need you to do, because you don't deserve to dwell among the higher species, because that's what separates us from animals. Even animals have to wait. Dogs don't just go around having sex all the time. They have to go into heat. Even they wait, but you can't. So that kind of makes you lower than a dog. And no disrespect to dogs, because they actually can't help themselves. They're hardwired. You're supposed to be on a higher mental frequency and a higher mental capacity, and you're acting like you're not capable. So anyway, you have to give them attention every now and then, because they will keep trying, honey. Here's another reason women are running away in droves, because more and more it starts to become clear to you that they don't believe that you actually belong to yourself. As this illustration shows, the baby's body is not your body. And then your body is actually your husband's body. So nothing about you actually belongs to you. You are a breed mare. And your purpose is to produce more human beings for the machine. Please. We're asking nicely. All right. God, how sad. It is so sad to me. It's sad to me what women have gone through. Like when I think about our ancestors, how many of them were probably forced into motherhood over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, I think that's the next slide. Actually, yes, it is. Let's take a look at this. This is posted on April 4th. It says before birth control, and about a decade before women could get a credit card in their name, my mom had 9 pregnancies before the age of 26, 5 miscarriages. When she had her tubes tied after the 9th because she almost died, our Catholic cop birth dad beat the shit out of her. So when I see this shit about birth control destroying the family because sex is about procreation, I always think about my mom having 9 pregnancies by the time she was 26. Oh, it says how many men were forced into wars over and over again. David, who forced them into those wars? Who forced them? I'll wait for your response. Meanwhile, 9 pregnancies before the age of 26 and 5 miscarriages, making that 14 pregnancies total. Actually, he didn't clarify. Of the 9 pregnancies, were 5 of them miscarriages, or were they 9 successful pregnancies and 5 miscarriages? Who knows? All before the age of 26. How sad. How sad to go from being a young woman, totally innocent, to some man's wife, to probably pregnant within the year, and then pregnant back to back to back to back to back, probably all against her will. And as this says, this was before birth control. So she just had to go through that over and over and over again. And our society made it their business to paint that as noble and good and her duty and her right as a woman. So I just think that is so sad. That's sad. She never had a choice. So for those women out there who are making the choice for this not to be their life, I salute you. I salute you. And you should be proud of yourself because so many of our ancestors did not have a choice. Many of us are here not because it was some loving, happy relationship where they produced children. She was forced to produce those children, especially Black people. White women too, because this appears to be a white woman. She looked like she might have a little Creole in her or something, but I believe this is a white woman because the poster is a white male. But anyway, it was happening to the white women too, having 14 kids on a farm. You think she meant to do that? She was forced. And the society set it up to where the only way she could survive is if she had a husband. If she was somebody's wife, then they basically allowed her to survive in the society. So this is why we fight. This is why we stand up. This is why we make noise. This is also why the 4B movement is happening. Because women have simply had enough. It's been going on for centuries now. It's not just a couple decades old issue. It's been going on for centuries. And women are finally tired. And if the internet has done anything good, it has enabled us to talk to each other and swap stories and share experiences and realize, oh my God, this is a bigger issue than even I thought. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. So women have been able to come together over this issue and realize, wow, this suffering was not unique to me. This suffering has been unique to women all over the world. Okay? So now, let's actually, before we get into Harrison, let's talk about Diddy real quick. Let's talk about Diddy because it is It's relevant. So, as some of you may or may not know, over the weekend, a video came out appearing to show Sean P. Diddy Combs beating Cassie in a hotel hallway in 2016, right? And it is him because he also came out today and released an apology video for his actions. He said he was drugged up and out of control and he's ashamed and disgusted at his behavior, blah, 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 whatever. And I bring this into this conversation not only because it's relevant, but because it just kind of shows that this is what women are going through out here. These happen to be celebrities, they happen to be rich, but it doesn't change the behavior. It doesn't change the circumstance because some woman who's not rich is out here going through this right now. So you wonder why women are walking away. You wonder why. Because women search high and low. Women will date a poor man, women will date a middle-class man, and women will date a rich man. And she is finding at every level similar behaviors. And it's making her go, I aimed high, that didn't work. I aimed low, that didn't work. I aimed middle of the road, that didn't work. Well, you know what? Maybe the game is broken. Maybe it's actually broken. And maybe I shouldn't participate in this anymore. That's why women are walking away. Because they're tired of getting beat and drugged in hallways and kicked and screamed at and having things thrown at them. I have at least 30 different stories for my next installment of Sick and Dangerous Men. You all know how in the beginning of the show, I put in a segment that shows the most recent DV cases that came across my timeline in some form or fashion. I've got at least 30 since the last time we did one of those episodes. That's ridiculous. I should only have one or two. Really, I should have zero. But one or two. I have like 30 different stories. So women are just starting to walk away. Like it's just not starting to seem like a good deal. It's not. And at some point, which I don't think that point will ever come, because what I've learned about men is men would rather go to war than change something about themselves. They'd rather go to war. They'll burn the whole place down before they change one aspect about their behavior or their belief systems. And yet profess to be so much more intelligent than women, but still can't control their anger, still can't control their rage. Look how emotional they're getting in the chat right now. Completely unhinged. Completely unhinged, simply because I'm talking about women's decision to walk away. The very same thing these same men were talking about when they went MGTOW years ago, which has since split into many different factions. Just because I'm talking about it. You see how unhinged? They can't handle it. It's kind of scary, you guys. Now, I mentioned like 2 live streams ago, I was just doing a check-in show. I mentioned that there was a YouTuber who I was getting ready to endorse. And then like she completely flipped, did a 180, and I can no longer endorse her like I was going to, which is truly unfortunate because a lot of what she was saying before she did her 180 flip made a lot of sense. A lot of sense. And one of the things that she was saying was that men and women are actually not supposed to be around each other the way that we are, basically. She says her theory and premise is essentially that men and women are so profoundly different from each other And our value systems are so profoundly different from each other that we are actually not supposed to be around each other the way that we are. And that in our current mixing of society, mixing of men and women going to school together, working together, living together, even living in the same neighborhood together, it is giving men an unnatural access to women. And even though I no longer agree with this particular YouTuber's stance, her current stance, because it only recently flipped to that, which is very weird. But anyway, even though I don't agree with where she is today, that to me still rings very true. That the exposure, men are not supposed to have access to women the way that they do. So it has created an unusual system of entitlement and basically was designed to help men pair off, not women. It was designed to help men pair off because in nature, men aren't allowed to have access to women like that. Not really. They're usually run off. They're usually kind of kicked out, which is kind of sad when you think about it and apply like human emotions to it. But nature has its reasons that they kick the boy children out. They send them out of the clan and basically make them fight for their lives on their own and fight for their survival on their own. They don't keep them around. Now, I think, of course, for human beings, that's a little extreme, but it makes sense though, because it's like, look at this. Look at what the constant exposure and the constant mixing of men and women has done to our society. Like, it's unhealthy and it's unnatural, basically, is what this YouTuber was saying. And I'm starting to believe it because it's like, you would think after all these years, after all these centuries, we would have found a way to get along, but we still haven't, though. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we do. But we're still fighting for basic human rights as women. And who are we fighting for those basic human rights for and against or whatever? Men. Still, to this day. To this day. Which proves the point that perhaps we were never supposed to be around each other like this to begin with. Never supposed to be around each other like this. We're too different. We're two different creatures, basically. Chat says Sean Combs is a mangy ass dog. He is the epitome of malignant, pathological, diabolical narc. The damage control from 2016 is a freaking joke. It is, I've been thinking about this a lot, especially on the heels of, I don't know if you all have been keeping up with the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef. I have, very much so. I'm very up on that. And it just makes me wonder, like, is the state of being a celebrity unnatural all by itself? Because almost every major celebrity that I grew up watching, seeing, singing along to, dancing along to, whatever, almost every single one of them seems to have gone down in some weird, creepy, sexual-based situation. And it's like, are there any of you who are actually not creeps? Are there any of you who are actually not creeps? It makes you wonder, like, who's left? I think the only ones left are like Denzel. He hasn't been caught up in anything weird and creepy yet, I don't think. I think Denzel is left. Who's left? Who is actually left worth looking up to, athletes included? Who's left? And then, so it makes me wonder then, like, it is part of being a celebrity being creepy and weird and violent. Like, it's bothersome because I would be lying if I said, oh, I didn't listen to any Puff Daddy songs coming up. That would be a lie. That's a lie. Like, there was a period of time where him and Oh goodness, who was he running with? The boy who went and became a pastor. Mace, was that Mace? Him and Mace and Lil Kim and all, like there was a period of time where that was the music, that was the time, that was the moment, that was the era. We were burning their songs and putting them on CDs. So it's like, wow, there really are no heroes. Like there's no one to look up to and be like, wow, they took their talent, applied themselves, and became very successful as a result of their talent. It seems to be like every story is they were willing to do some creepy shit, and for doing that creepy shit, they got paid a lot of money and became rich and famous. And the creepier you're willing to be, the more famous will make you. So for those of you who maybe like tried to break into the music industry when you were younger, maybe you sing, maybe you write, maybe you make beats, or you produce, maybe you rap, whatever, R&B, whatever, rock and roll, whatever. You tried to get in, you tried so hard to get in. Like you worked really hard at it. You recorded like little samples, you did little local shows, little local venues, you branded yourself, you tried everything to break into the industry and you never could. Either your talent wasn't as great as you thought it was, or they realized that you weren't willing to do the type of creepy shit that is required to get into the industry. And they can just see that about you. Like they just know it. Kind of like they have a nose for it, like an instinct for whether or not you're open to that kind of stuff. And they can tell immediately. And they reject you because they know that you're not going to be down with all that stuff. So I'm just saying, I'm just saying. So it's bothersome. It's really bothersome. And it's also bothersome because so many of us came up on their music. So many young men came up on their music. And if this is who was behind the music, then how many subliminal and open messages have they weaved into the music to make you believe that this is the way normal people operate when it's really not? It's kind of like high level advanced grooming, basically. So anyway, I bring this up. I'm not going to show the video, but I bring it up to say that this is what women are dealing with behind closed doors. Both women in relationships with high profile rich men and women in relationships with low profile poor men. And the question starts to become, what is going on with the men? Has this always been the case? Has this always been the case? Because it's starting to seem like it has always been the case. So, and maybe this is what has been hidden from us, the true nature of the male. And I hate to think that, but I'm starting to believe that that might actually be the case. The true nature has been hidden, although it's been let out in little ways here and there over the years. But it's almost like women didn't want to believe it. I certainly didn't want to believe it because my brain, for whatever reason, believes that people are capable of intellect and higher thought and critical thinking and deep logic and deep reasoning. And I believe that if you're a human being, you have that capability. And that is my flaw, because I just seem to refuse to accept or want to accept the fact that some people are like completely broken for real. And I don't mean that in the sad, oh, play a violin way. I mean like broken, like error code, error 404, whatever. Does not compute. The code is broken. It's bad code, is what I'm saying. But it's frightening because it's like, if that is the case, then how much danger are we really in? How much danger are we really in and we don't know? You see what I'm saying? Like, I was thinking about it like this. This is kind of an extreme example, but I think it illustrates what I'm trying to say. So let's say I went to work one day and it was just a normal day. And let's say an earthquake or something hit and damaged the building to the point where we're alive in it, we're okay in it, but we can't get out, right? And let's say it takes them like 3 weeks to free us, which is a long time. How soon before the same friendly male coworkers that I know start to devolve into these same characters? Meaning, at first, we're all freaked out, we're all scared, we're just trying to get out of there. We don't know if we're going to live or die. At first, we're very, very worried about survival, right? But maybe after the first week, when we realize, okay, we're going to get out of here, just not as fast as we would like. And now we're all just in here together. Like, how soon before the friendliest male coworker turns and like tries to pull me into a dark corner, like, hey, we may never make it out of here. So, you want to do something? Like, do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, how soon before, the girls like go to the bathroom in groups? Like, no, do not go to the bathroom by yourself. We move in groups because the guys have gone feral. We're trapped in this building. We don't know when we're going to get out of here. Everyone's hungry, a little thirsty. But more than that, these dudes over here are horny now. Are you kidding me? We're in a life-threatening situation and now you're horny. So how soon before they go feral? So that's what I mean when I say, how much danger are we really in? The other the other oh man. Oh yeah. The other theory that YouTuber I was talking about had that I thought was very interesting was that the law has been created for men. This is hers. I don't want to shout her out because then I feel like I'm kind of endorsing her, and then you're going to go over there and see what she's on now and be like, why in the world would PTE endorse this person? So I don't want to give an implicit endorsement. However, I will give credit when an idea is not mine. And the theory that she has is that the law was created for men to control men. The law is in place for men. And when you really stop and think about that, I believe it's true. Yes, there are some laws that are universal to all people. Like, if you do it as a woman, you're going to jail. If you do it as a man, you're going to jail, period. But at large, the law is for men. It's designed to control men, not women. Like, really stop and think about it. How many laws would still be required if the planet were all women? Chat says the 10 Commandments were written for men too. Exactly. Chat says that reminds me of Hurricane Katrina, how so many women were essayed in the Superdome during the crisis. Exactly. How long before these same super nice guys that I work with go feral? Especially if he thinks he's about to die soon. It's like, well, I'm about to die, so they can't arrest me. Come to this closet. You see what I'm saying? And it's really something to think about. It is really something to think about. And it makes me sad because I never wanted to reach a place where I believed that about men. Like, I wanted to believe that everyone is redeemable in their own way if they just try hard enough. I never wanted to believe that people or a person could simply be a byproduct of what they are and had no control over it. You see what I mean? But I think I'm starting to accept and believe that there may be some fundamental features of our biology that cannot be overridden. And that makes me sad, and it also makes me a little scared. So I had one more thing to share, but I feel like I've kind of covered it. Let me see if I still want to share this with y'all. This is this football player. God, you know what? I think I will. Even though it feels like I'm going backwards, it's worth it. We're here. We might as well talk about it. And you know me, I probably won't pop back up for another 3 or 4 months. So I might as well go ahead and get it off my chest now. So this guy's name is Harrison Buckner, I guess. He's a kicker or something for some football team. And he took it upon himself to go give a speech at a graduation ceremony. And it's almost like he had Chat GPT write it for him, but with a red pill twist. So it's almost like he told Chat GPT, hey, will you write me a graduation speech that features every major red pill talking point? And Chat GPT said, okay. And he came out and he read it. And honestly, now that I think about it, it is entirely possible that's exactly what happened, because you can't tell me he read this ahead of time and thought that it was going to be okay. Because if so, that means to me that he might be slightly psychotic and also has absolutely no ability or capability of foresight, or is so sheltered that he really thought this was okay. I don't know, but he talked about a whole bunch of red pill talking points, but this is the part that got him in hot water. So first, let's take a look at him. Yeah, he's a kicker. He kicks stuff. Where's a picture? We don't have a picture of him. We don't really need one, but let's see if we can find one real quick. There he is. Okay. Child. So anyway, he covered all the major conservative and red pill talking points, but let's talk about the one that's really got people upset with him. He said that a woman's place is in the home. Mind you, this is at a graduation ceremony with men and women present and with men and women graduating. It says, following on from his comments about the LGBTQ plus community, Harrison then says he wants to address the women in the audience directly, explaining, quote, I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. Going on to explain that those lies were about careers. Quote, I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker. Isabel's dream of having a career might not have come true, but if you ask her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud without hesitation and say, heck no. I bet she would say that, Harrison. You make millions of dollars in the NFL, boy. Get serious. And then let's see here. Oh, then, of course, he doubles down. He says, following the homemaker comments, Buckner pauses to discuss the plague of single parent families with no father in the house. The 28-year-old goes on a diatribe about this situation, saying, what plagues our society is the lie that has been told to you that men are not necessary in the home or in our communities. As men, we set the tone of the culture. And when that is absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos set in. This absence of men in the home is what plays a large role in the violence we see all around the nation. Be unapologetic in your masculinity, fighting against the cultural emasculation of men. I think this guy is running for president. Okay. Now, here's what tickles me. I just might as well just break it into pieces since we're here. It's kind of like this whole thing has always been very bizarre to me because it's like, I want to say, yeah, comma, and what are you going to do about it? How does this affect you directly? You are already married. You did exactly what you wanted to do. You wanted to marry a woman settle down with her, play in the NFL, and have children, have her raise the kids at home. You did that. So why does everyone else have to do what you did? How does it affect you? Why does this keep you up at night when you can always do the thing that you're advocating for and you did? And I'm sure your kids will too, because you will be sure to indoctrinate them with your belief system. So they will probably follow in your footsteps. I will give you credit because you all do tend to keep pretty strong social networks. So your kids will meet someone else's kids who believe the same thing, and boom, we got another marriage. So why does it have to be everyone? Why does the world have to reflect you? Why does the world have to look like you? Why can't you just do what you want to do, which you did? So what are you upset about, honey? That's like me saying, I think everyone should get a college degree. And it's like, well, PTE, did you get a college degree? Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, I got two. Okay, then why does everyone else need a degree? Because I think it's the right thing to do. It's like, okay, well, then do it. Well, I did. Now I want everyone else to do it too. Like, you're weird. You're weird. Narcissists are so weird. You're weird. If that's what you believe, go do it. If you believe you're supposed to have blue hair, go dye your hair blue, baby. But the whole world doesn't have to dye their hair blue. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, okay, do that then. And he did, but he's still not happy. He's not happy until the world is shaped around what he wants and what he likes. So that's the first very strange thing. And it tickles me that he talking about, if you ask Isabel, is she happy with her decision? And she'll say yes or whatever. Yeah, I bet, because she married an NFL kicker. She doesn't have to work another day in her life. I bet she is happy. Probably still miserable though, but she doesn't have to worry about money. So at least there's that. But then, and I did a whole video on this, and I'll try to find it and link it. It's been a couple years since I did a video on this, because this is one of the silliest arguments to me in the entire world. First of all, because you're already too late. The whole plague of the single parent household. You're already too late. You are already several decades late. And if we really wanted to go historic, you're several centuries late. But we'll keep it current and say you're already several decades late. Number one, this didn't just start. So when you're telling people single parent households are a plague and you've been sold a lie that men aren't needed in the homes, there are entire TikTok threads and conversations going on social media of women showing how their husbands do not help with the children, how they feel like married single mothers because their husbands won't help with the children. So what good is your presence if you're not helpful, honey? And I say that to say that a woman actually truly desires a very present, very available partner who is her partner in life through all things, through thick and thin, including raising the babies. But instead, usually it all falls on the woman. And I say that again to say that what women are actually asking for is a man who will be present and help. Y'all don't want to. You're sorry as hell your mothers did a terrible job raising you, and your daddy did too. If he was there, if he wasn't there, he did a piss poor job as well. They have done a terrible job raising you boys. Terrible. But there is a part of me that believes there's nothing they could have done to change who you actually were and who you actually are. That's the deficit. That's the deficit that nobody wants to talk about. Everyone wants to tiptoe around it. No one wants to talk about this deficit, honey. Maybe there's nothing they could do to change that blockhead of yours. It's bricked. Bricked. You want to know who had the worst writing, reading, spelling, and grammar when I was a teacher? Boys. Boys cannot master language. It's boys. Males. The girls had it for the most part. Those boys, It's almost like we're dealing with a subspecies of human. And I hate to think that that's the case, but it's what it's starting to feel like. You can't even master language. There's parrots out here that can speak better than you. So it's kind of like what's really good. But anyway, you're several decades late on the man out of the house, single parent household phenomenon. And a whole bunch of other YouTubers have done an incredible job debunking that altogether. I'm not going to get into it because it really goes deep, very deep historically. But if I can find any of those videos, I'll link them for you because it's simply not true. I know it's not true simply because I'm a woman. If I am married and I get pregnant, I don't want to then put my husband out of the house. Why would I do that? Why would I want that? I actually love him, Love, we're not even going to get into that, right? Why would I then want to put the person out who has now put me in this situation? I'm pregnant, I'm 10 times more vulnerable than I would be if I wasn't pregnant. Then once the baby is here, now I'm vulnerable and the baby's vulnerable, and I want to put out the man? That makes no sense. It's stupid. You get put out due to your own actions. And a lot of times it's not even the woman putting him out. A lot of times he simply walks away. They don't want to talk about that either. The fact that sometimes they just walk away. Where do you think that joke about daddy going to get milk and never coming back came from? Because that's what used to happen. Sometimes men just simply decide they don't want to be there anymore. They leave. You're not perfect. Get over yourself. You are the most vain, self-centered, egotistical creatures on the planet. Let's not forget narcissistic. You are so full of yourselves. You think you're perfect. You never do anything wrong. You never do anything that would cause a woman to want to walk away from you. It's disgusting. Why do you think the jails are filled with men? Because the law doesn't like you, because the law isn't on your side? Why do you think men have so much trouble maintaining relationships and maintaining friendships with other men? Why do you think that is? Why? And then you think somehow women are going to be more equipped to deal with a man who doesn't like other men and other men don't like him either? But somehow a woman is more equipped to deal with that. So, you see how they're coming out in droves, by the way. You see how they're coming out in flocks. Boy, I swear, I think y'all make up half of my subscriber base. I really do. And you just monitor. And you're like, well, as long as she's not talking about us, then we're good. No sooner than I bring up an issue like this, they come out in droves, come out of the cracks like cockroaches. So they're really sick. They're sick people. They're not well, y'all. They're not. So anyway, he says this as if it'll just fix itself if you just want it to. Like, you know what? Ladies, stop putting your children's father out of the house. Kids need their dad, okay? We'll tell that to Shannon Watts, Chris Watts' wife. She had the father of her children in her home. She was married to him too. She did everything right. She was married to him. They had 2 daughters. You know what I mean? Did everything right. She was an attractive woman, pretty, fit, all that. Looked pretty feminine to me. What did he do? Off her daughter, off her other daughter, and then threw him into like I don't even know, like a oil holding thing. I don't know. But she had him there with him though. Father in the home. That's a win for the father in the home, right? And I could go on. There's so many cases. It's sad. So anyway, this is yet another attempt to shame women for turning away, which has been the theme of this whole entire show, the 4B movement. Women across the world have just simply started to walk away. And in my closing thoughts, what I'll say is this used to make me sad, but now I'm starting to believe it's just how a society collapses. We've had many societies throughout the history of our humanity, and almost every single one of them has fallen, except I want to say the Roman Empire, which is now, it kind of converted into the European Empire, I guess you could say, like the UK or Catholicism. I don't know. It kind of, in other words, it never really died. It transmuted itself. But other people historically will say Rome fell, which is fine. I'll agree with that. That one in America, the American Empire has yet to fall. But I believe that this is how societies begin to actually crumble. It's almost like humanity will keep repeating this cycle until it figures out that this does not work. Until it figures out or breeds out this mental disorder, because it's a mental disorder. Your mind is literally disordered. It's out of order. It's not operating properly, and it's driving every single one of your actions and every single one of your behaviors. And when you allow men in particular to run slipshod across the whole entire world, what eventually happens is the women stop reproducing with them. And then eventually there's not enough people to sustain the society. And it is either taken over by a stronger society or it collapses. Oh, chat says same rulers, same destiny. Mm. Garbage in, garbage out. So what used to make me sad is now me more so kind of stepping back and recognizing or believing that maybe this is just how societies end. This is just how they crumble. They put men in charge of them. The men lose their minds because they're not designed for these leadership positions like that. Too inherently selfish. They destroy first themselves, then their greater society, then they destroy each other, and that's how it ends. And then somehow it restarts. Now that part, I don't know. How society like picks back up and restarts again, I don't know. That's a deeper conversation, I think. But I think this is the cycle that humanity goes on and will continue to travel on until it figures out that this doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's not conducive. It's not conducive to life. Stealing, killing, and destroying is not conducive to life. It never has been. So who knows where this all ends up? But I'm totally here for it. I'm in complete support. And also, I want you ladies out there to know that if you are married or in a relationship with a healthy, stable man who is adding value to your life, I support that too. I support you being a mom. I support all of that. I support whatever you choose for your life. Whatever you choose, as long as it is beneficial to you, beneficial to your life, and not a detriment to you in any way, I support it. But I also fully support and understand women walking away, and I'm proud of them because so many women in the past, out of fear of, oh my God, what if I never get married? Oh my God, what if I never have kids? Make decisions out of fear and end up regretting it for the rest of their lives. It ends up being the single worst decision they ever made, ever. So I don't want to see that happening for women. I want women to enter into situations and relationships that are healthy, happy, that bring them joy, that bring them peace, fulfillment, all of those things, a best friend, all of those things. That's what I hope for you. But I also want you to be very aware, if you can't tell by the chat, that there's a lot of really sick puppies out here. And you have to you have to be on high alert for them. I know it's frustrating to read this chat, but you have to see it because the one good thing about them is that they don't really change. So they all start to sound alike. They have the same reasoning capacity. They have the same logical capacities. which are minimal, but they're still identifiable and recognizable. So you can start to see this coming out in any man that you're interacting with. You'll hopefully pick up the pattern right away and distance yourself, because these do need to be extincted. They do. Their daddy was probably like this. And you see how that went. So we don't need to be passing this down the gene pool. We really don't. So I like that they're out here in droves this evening. This is good. It's good for study. It's good for study. And in their unhinged comments, I hope that you hope to I hope that you start to pick up the patterns in their thought process, okay? But anyway, to all the girls, local, global, to the younger generation, Gen Z, I'm so proud of y'all. I'm really proud of y'all. I am. Because what the millennials were supposed to do, you guys have picked up the ball and ran with it. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for speaking up. I'm proud of you for all the research that you're doing. I'm proud of you for educating each other and the world at large. And I'm proud of you for standing up and saying, no, we're not going to tolerate it. It ends with us. So I commend you. I support you in any way I can find to support this. I will. And I will continue to make my content. And we will continue to discuss things like this, because it appears that y'all ain't ever going to stop. So I'm just here to fan the flames, baby. Whew. They say 2024 is the year of exposure, baby. And so far, they are telling the truth. My goodness. There has been so much going on. All these major, oh man, talk cash shit being exposed. Didn't one of y'all's favorite podcasters just get exposed for getting a girl pregnant and asking her for an abortion after he said that abortion is wrong and blah, 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 and women are whores and sluts and shouldn't get abortions, and he doesn't believe in abortion, but as soon as he got a chick pregnant that wasn't his wife, first thing he suggested to her was getting an abortion? Didn't that just happen to y'all? Just asking. I'm just asking. So with that, I hope I have given you all a lot to think about, a lot to consider. And I'll be back again soon. Not sure when, but soon. I hope you all enjoy your week. And do take time to study the unhinged lunatics in the comment section, because they provide more insight than you realize. But with that, have a great evening. And we will talk again very, very soon. Bye.